I never thought a poor girl's quick thinking would save a millionaire on the brink of death. You see, everything changed that day. The air was thick with tension. I saw him lying there, pale as a ghost, chest barely rising. My hand shook as I rushed through the overcrowded street. Panic gripped me. I will never forget the terrified faces around him. Their eyes reflected fear, disbelief. I was nobody, a girl with frayed edges and chipped dreams. But that moment? It lit a fire in me. I felt my heart pound, felt the weight of the world pressing down. His name, I learned later, was Jason Mercer. A name that echoed, one that suddenly mattered. That morning it started off like any other. I woke up in our tiny apartment, the sound of my mom's quiet sobs barely reaching my ears. She had lost her job again. I thought of our empty fridge and trembling hands as I counted my coins for breakfast. I wanted to make it better, to tell her it would be okay, but how could I when I felt so lost myself? As I stepped outside, the sun blinded me, a stark contrast to the shadows lurking in my mind. Old Mr. Hargrove was out, shuffling down the sidewalk as usual. He whispered secrets to his newspaper, but I barely paid attention. I had my own worries, my own heartaches. The streets bustled around me, filled with jukebox music and the sweet smell of pretzels. I was on my way to a job interview at the diner. I needed this chance. My heart raced with hope. But that was before I saw the crowd gathering, gasps rising in waves like a summer tide. My eyes darted. There he was, Jason, lean and dashing, crumpled on the ground like a marionette with cut strings. I felt time freeze around me. I pushed forward, adrenaline coursing through my veins. My throat tightened as I knelt beside him. I could hear the whispers, people speculating, murmuring doubts. He won't make it. Just leave him. But I couldn't leave him. I couldn't. My trembling hands found his wrist. No pulse. I pressed down on his chest, felt the warmth of his life slipping away. My palms were slick with fear. I screamed for someone to call 911. My voice sliced through the chaos, but the sirens felt so far away. Moments blurred together. I closed my eyes, remembering tales they told in the nursing home. Breathe, push, trust the spark inside me. It felt strange, like I was dancing on the edge of fear and hope. With each compression, I prayed for life. I poured everything into those moments: passion, desperation, heart, then silence. Just me, the muffled sobs, and the beating of my heart. I didn't know if I was skilled or just crazy, thrown into a world I didn't belong in. But then, a flicker, his eyes opened, dark and confused. A gasp escaped my lips. I had done it. But before the relief washed over me, confusion painted itself across his face. He squinted, searching for something or someone. The world around us faded. All eyes were on us. Faces twisted in shock. I felt the weight of their judgment. I pulled away, breathless, his gaze piercing into my soul, questions swirling in those deep eyes. What would he say? How could I explain? And more importantly, what was this twist of fate that had thrown us together? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were a whirlwind of uncertainty. I had saved a life, Jason's life, but the act itself felt like a page ripped from someone else's fairy tale. I was still that girl in the cramped apartment with empty shelves staring back at me, the weight of my reality indescribable. After the ambulance arrived and whisked Jason away, part of me wished I could follow him, to learn what the aftermath of that moment might bring. Would he feel grateful? Would he even remember me? These questions throbbed in my mind like a stubborn ache. The sirens and paramedics had pulled everyone away, leaving me standing there with a lingering sense of loss, like I had lost something precious that I didn't even know I had. Later that evening, I returned home and found my mother sitting at the table, her head cradled in her arms. Deep lines etched her face, a canvas of worry and exhaustion. I wanted to reach out and tell her everything. I wanted to soothe her fears and say, I did something today. I changed a life. But how could I possibly explain to her the magnitude of that moment when our lives felt so small? Instead, I sat across from her and pushed a few coins I had left from the morning into the center of the table. I got a job today, I lied, forcing a smile. Her weary eyes brightened slightly, hope flickering in her gaze. That's wonderful, sweetheart, she responded, her voice barely above a whisper. The next day, I found myself wandering the streets again, burdened by an unsettling restlessness. I felt pulled between two worlds, the shadowed corners of my life, and the light that Jason had briefly shined into it. I had no idea where he was, how he was recovering, or if he would even think of me again. Then, as fate would have it, I stumbled upon a charity event being held at the local community center. The vibrant colors and cheerful chatter drew me in. I stepped inside, feeling out of place, a mere spectator among the glittering attire and polished smiles. As I moved through the crowd, my eyes caught a glimpse of someone familiar across the room. It was Jason. Flanked by well-dressed associates, he wore a confident facade. But behind it, I could see the shadows flickering in his gaze. The memory of the moment I had saved him collided with my heart like a crush of waves. Before I could process my next move, one of his associates noticed me and beckoned me over. "Hey, this is the girl," he announced with an air of admiration. Jason's gaze sharpened, locking onto me with a mix of confusion and curiosity. My chest tightened as I stepped forward, the gravity of this moment suffocating. "Thank you for what you did the other day," he finally said, his voice steady but laced with an emotional undercurrent. "I owe you my life." The fervor in my heart ignited again, but simultaneously, a cascade of doubts flooded my mind. Did he know how I truly felt? Was it all gratitude, or was there a connection, however fragile? "You owe me nothing," I responded, fighting to suppress my own emotions. I couldn't let you go." Jason studied me, his expression shifting, searching, and the crowd around us faded away, leaving just the two of us. "How did you know what to do?" he asked, curiosity weaving through his tone. "2 didn't. I just followed something inside, a feeling." I stumbled over my words, the weight of the truth feeling too heavy to share. It was a small lie, a friendly facade I hoped wouldn't unravel under the scrutiny of those around us. "I'm just glad you're okay." Before I could deflect further, an unexpected voice broke through the moment. A woman stepped forward, blue eyes piercing through me, and a smirk playing at her lips. "So you're the little hero. I hope you're not expecting anything in return," she snapped, her words laced with disdain. The laughter that followed echoed through the room, cold and sharp, and suddenly a wave of vulnerability washed over me. Jason's eyes widened as he turned to her, but her words hung heavy in the air between us, casting a shadow over what had been a fleeting moment of connection. "Don't listen to her," he shot back, but even as he spoke, I could feel something shift within him, uncertainty creeping in. The glimmer of hope that had sparked between us began to flicker dimly, overshadowed by layers of complications I couldn't begin to understand. As laughter continued to ripple around us, I took a step back, trying to regain my footing in a world that was suddenly spinning beyond my reach. As pain threatened to collapse everything I felt, the truth loomed over me, a potential rift forming between who I was and who I could become, between the life I'd known and the life that might be waiting on the other side. Then, amidst the chaos, Jason made a sudden move to reach for my hand. I felt a jolt of electricity between us, but before I could cling to that spark, the moment shattered as he pulled back, uncertainty clouding his features once more. He turned his gaze toward the woman, the glare fiery with displeasure. "What is happening here?" His voice trembled, a mixture of frustration and confusion. The air thickened with tension, and I suddenly felt small, caught in a web spun with threads of chance and fate. The emotional chasm widened as I turned to leave, unsure of where to go or what I truly wanted. I looked back one last time, catching Jason's haunted expression. The weight of a million unspoken words hung between us like a fragile thread in a storm, and just like that, the connection we had shared felt poised on the brink of unraveling, leaving behind a bittersweet taste of what might have been. Wildly I pressed forward into the bustling street, the echoes of their laughter trailing behind me like ghosts I could not shake. My heart ached, a reminder of the risk I had taken, the life I had briefly touched, and the distance that now seemed insurmountable. With my back turned and hopes dwindling alongside the setting sun, I found myself wondering if this was truly how our story ended, bound by circumstance and misunderstanding, forever on different paths. The streets were alive with the fading light of day, a poignant orange washing over everything, yet my heart felt like the cold shadow that followed me. I kept my head down, weaving through the clusters of friends and families, laughter ringing in my ears, like a cruel echo of what I had lost. Each step seemed heavier than the last, and the sense of alienation clawed at my insides. I wandered aimlessly for what felt like hours, ending up in front of a dingy cafe down the block from our apartment. The fluorescent lights buzzed, and the smell of burnt coffee wafted through the door. I pushed it open, and the tiny bell above announced my arrival, but the warmth didn't reach me. I settled into a booth in the far corner, trying to shield myself from the world outside, but the weight of it all remained. Jason's gratitude mingling with the woman's disdain, two opposing forces that left me marooned in a sea of uncertainty. Ordering a coffee, I stared blankly at the patterned forward table, tracing the grooves with my finger. Soon after, an elderly woman slid into the booth across from me, her presence as unexpected as it was comforting. She wore a floral scarf and a kind smile that seemed to illuminate the shadows in my heart. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her voice a warm melody piercing through my thoughts. "Sure," I replied, surprised at how the softness in her eyes made me want to spill my story. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, dear," she said, her gaze searching mine. "Sometimes it helps to share your burdens." I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the tumult within me. But for the first time since that day, a wave of comfort washed over me at the idea of being understood. "I saved a life," I blurted out, the words slipping through my lips as if unhinged. "But it feels like more of a burden than a blessing." She leaned in closer, her expression a mixture of empathy and encouragement. "That's a remarkable thing, you know," she replied softly. "You might not see it now, but sometimes helping others can lead us to unexpected places. It's a chance to rewrite our own narratives." I let her words wash over me, a gentle tide easing my growing anxiety. A small sliver of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe I wouldn't be trapped in the shadows forever. Maybe there was a path out of this darkness after all. We talked for what felt like hours. She shared stories of her youth, of kindnesses from strangers, and the serendipitous moments that unexpectedly changed her life. Each story filled my heart with a brightness I'd thought lost. When I finally stepped back out into the cool night air, I felt lighter. I knew I wouldn't forget Jason, but perhaps I could begin to carve out my own identity, separate from the moment that had bound us. As I made my way back home, my phone buzzed furiously in my pocket, the sound startling me. I fished it out, heart racing as I saw Jason's name flashing on the screen. It had only been a few hours since we had last seen each other, but in that fleeting moment, it felt like an eternity. I hesitated for a second before answering. "Hello? Is this you?" His voice came through the line, hesitant yet unmistakably Jason. "I know it's late, but I really need to talk." A rush of emotion swept through me, igniting both excitement and fear. "Yeah, of course," I replied, biting my lip, unsure of what was to come. "I didn't mean what I said earlier." "I don't want to let you go," he started, and my heart pounded wildly. "Can we meet? I need to explain, and I have questions." "Okay," I managed to whisper, my mind swirling like leaves caught in a whirlwind. "Can you meet me at the old fountain in the park?" We agreed to meet in 30 minutes. My heart thumped loudly in my chest, a symphony of joy and trepidation. As I rushed toward the park, 100 thoughts bombarded my mind. What could he want to explain? Did he see me as someone he could trust, or simply as a fleeting moment of rescue amidst the chaos of his life? But as I entered the park, the moon glinting off the water of the fountain, my heart sank. Jason was standing there, his back turned to me. He looked deep in thought, but as I got closer, I noticed his shoulders tense, a shadow of worry etched in his posture. "Hey," I called softly, hoping to ease the tension. He turned, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. But then, I noticed the heaviness in his gaze, an urgency behind it that brought a chill to the air. He seemed different, a distant tremor beneath his facade. "We need to talk," he began, but before he could proceed, a sudden commotion erupted from the path behind me. A group of rowdy teenagers sprinted past, laughter ringing out like bells, when one of them collided into Jason, sending him staggering backward. I gasped, reaching out instinctively. The moment dragged, time stretching, heart halting. As Jason stumbled, a flash caught my eye. His wallet slipped from his pocket and fluttered to the ground, opening to reveal a multitude of cards, including what appeared to be a black credit card embossed with his name in gold lettering. Before I had time to grasp its significance, a figure from the group snatched it up, his eyes widening with mischief. "Look what we got here!" The laughter turned predatory, thick with anticipation, and I felt the ground fall away beneath me. "Hey! Give that back!" I shouted, adrenaline flooding my veins. Now, every fear I'd harbored came rushing back: Michael's disdain, the weight of expectations, the sudden risk of losing Jason's trust forever. But as I launched forward, I could almost feel the threads of fate twisting tighter around Jason and me. Would I be able to protect what little connection we had left, or was I destined to lose him all over again? And in a heartbeat, Jason's expression transformed from concern to determination, a fierce light flickering back into his eyes, and I knew we were both on the edge of a definitive moment. What would happen next could change everything. The atmosphere shifted in an instant, the playful laughter of the teenagers morphing into something sinister, as the mockery of the stolen wallet pulsed through the stillness of the night. My heart raced as the reality of the moment crashed over me like a tidal wave. Jason was no ordinary individual. The black credit card was evidence of a world I barely understood, a world in which the stakes felt unbearably high. I lunged forward, compelled by a surge of adrenaline. "Please," I begged, desperation gripping my throat. "Just give it back." But the teenager holding the card, a wiry boy with wild hair and a sneer that could cut glass, simply laughed, shoving it into his pocket playfully. "What's it to you, huh? You think you're tough? This guy," he gestured derisively at Jason, "could buy and sell us. Why do you care?" Water rippled in the fountain, reflecting shards of moonlight as Jason stepped toward them, determination etched on his face. "It's just a card, you don't need to act like animals." "Give it back," he urged, his voice steady, though I could hear the tremor of fear lingering beneath the surface. The ringleader exchanged glances with his friends, and I could see the glint of challenge in their eyes. My pulse thudded in my ears, a primal instinct roaring within me. I couldn't let them have the last word, the last laugh. "If you don't give it back, I shouted, my voice wavering yet fierce. "You'll regret it." Jason's gaze caught mine, a flicker of surprise evident there, and I knew in that instant that I had crossed a threshold, both for him and for myself. Maybe I wasn't just the girl who had saved his life. Maybe I could be something more, a protector of what's right. The teenager made a move and started to step toward me, but Jason interjected, taking a firm stand. "That's enough." The authority in his voice seemed to hang in the air, transforming the dynamic. "You think this is a game? You're better than this." A moment of silence enveloped us, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, to my utter astonishment, the flicker of doubt appeared in the ringleader's eyes. Perhaps he sensed that Jason, despite his appearance of wealth, harbored a strength that transcended money, something raw and intense that illuminated the night like a beacon. "Just give him back his wallet, and we'll forget this ever happened," I urged softly, my voice steady but imploring. Maybe it was the sincerity in my tone, or perhaps it was Jason's unwavering stance that ignited a flicker of humanity in the boy. With a reluctant huff, the teenager reached into his pocket and tossed the wallet back to Jason. "Whatever, man, take your stupid cards and leave us out of it." As Jason caught the wallet, relief washed over me, and I couldn't help but smile, my heart racing, fueled by adrenaline and the incredible weight of our shared moment. "Thank you," I said, glancing at the ringleader, sincerity seeping through the tempest simmering within me. They sauntered off, and the air purged of its tension, leaving us both standing in the moonlight, two figures reshaped by the night's reckoning. My heart brimming with gratitude, I turned to Jason. "Are you okay?" He nodded, but there was an undeniable restlessness behind his eyes. "Yeah," but he paused, his breath shaky. "Why did you do that?" "You could have just walked away." "Because I care," I answered instinctively, the weight of my statement anchoring me to this unexpected and fragile moment. "What we experienced said it means something. I won't let you face this alone." In the aftermath of the confrontation, as we stood by the fountain, I felt a distinct shift in our connection. The warmth from moments earlier, the sparks of kindness exchanged between us, had ignited into an unspoken promise. But before Jason could respond, his phone buzzed harshly in his pocket. I watched his expression change as he pulled it out, the color draining from his face. It's my brother," he stammered, panic flitting across his features. "He's calling." "I have to answer." "Jason, wait," but the urgency in his eyes compelled him to step away, a momentary retreat that felt like an expulsion. As he spoke into the phone, I could only catch bits and pieces. "No, don't." His voice rose, urgency heightened. "You can't just show up, not now." The weight of the realities surrounding him struck like a lead balloon. I stood frozen, watching him grapple with something I couldn't fathom. The moments of hope we'd shared moments prior now hung perilously, balancing on a precipice of uncertainty. He turned to me, his expression a myriad of emotions: fear, anger, and a struggle for control. "They're not supposed to be here. They don't understand," he explained, frustration bleeding through. "What do you mean?" I asked, stepping closer, feeling the ground tremble between us. "Just give me a minute," he pleaded, tension coiling like a snake between us, spiraling into the unknown. "I need to figure out how to handle this." And just like that, in the midst of the hope we had kindled, the shadows began to coalesce once more around us. As he pulled away, the air thick with dread, all I could think was how fragile our connection felt, now dangling like a delicate thread about to snap. If Jason couldn't navigate this unfolding chaos, would I lose him like so many others? The cliffhanger hung in the air, an echo of questions without answers as I watched him struggle. The night had promised a shared path, but now we stood on opposite sides of a chasm that felt impossible to cross. The echo of Jason's urgent voice melted into the enveloping silence, and as the frantic rhythm of his heartbeat matched the rising uncertainty in the pit of my stomach, I felt the weight of his looming crisis settle heavily upon me. The moon hung low, casting pale shadows on the pavement, and I wondered if those same shadows concealed darker secrets waiting to spill out. I don't understand, I said softly, trying to pierce through the bramble of his fear. What do you mean they're not supposed to be here? Who's coming? Jason's brow furrowed deeper, his fingers gripping the phone as if it might slip away and expose the tender threads of his life to the chaos he sought to shield me from. It's my family, he whispered, his voice tight, barely louder than the rustling leaves in the late-night breeze. They don't know, and they don't know what I am now. My breath hitched. What do you mean by that? What are you hiding? But before he could respond, his gaze shot across the park, fixating on a distant shadow near the entrance. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the glow of streetlights, the outline crystallizing as a tall man adorned in an immaculate tailored suit stepped forward. He was the kind of man who commanded respect, and aura of authority radiating from him, thick and heavy. Jason. The man called out, his voice deep like thunder rolling over a stormy sky. The tension between us snapped taut, and I felt my heart plummet. Who is that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. That's my brother, he spat, his features contorting with a mix of anger and dread. He has no right to be here. This is the last place I wanted him to find me. What are you going to do? I asked, the uncertainty splaying out before me, swirling like leaves caught in a whirlwind. I don't know, he said, his vulnerability cutting through the bravado he had tried so fiercely to maintain. But he's not the only one. If they've come, then it's only a matter of time before others do. 2 people I thought I'd left behind. As his brother approached, the world around us fell into a haunting stillness. The laughter, the joy, the adrenaline from the earlier confrontation faded like a distant memory. I reached for Jason's hand, seeking solace in the warmth of his presence. But he stepped back, his expression a tempest of emotions. Stay back, he warned quietly, gripping the edges of his resolve as he faced the inevitable. Jason. The brother called again, his tone now sharpening. We need to talk. Now. The moment hung heavy in the air. I watched as Jason wrestled with an inner turmoil that threatened to spill over. The man continued to walk closer, and I felt my heart hammer in sync with the rapid steps that followed. Standing beneath the harsh glow of the lights, the 2 brothers faced each other, as if navigating a battle zone. Did you even consider what this would do to our family? The words bit, harsh and unforgiving. You can't just ghost the people who care about you. Care? Jason shot back, his voice rising in agony. You don't understand. You think everything is perfect for you, that your choices don't have consequences. You're suffocating me. The brother's expression hardened, the pain unmasked but cloaked in a veil of anger. You owe it to us to face this together, not run away like some coward. My heart twisted. This seemed so much bigger than the night we had shared, now steeped in misunderstanding and sorrow. My desire to reach out to Jason, to pull him back from this emotional ledge, flickered dangerously close to extinguishing. Jason, please, I called out, sensing the fraying tension. You don't have to do this alone. He glanced at me, his eyes a pool of confusion. I could see a battle raging within him, a storm of loyalty tangled with a desire for freedom. His face was set, resolute yet shattered, and in that moment, I didn't know which direction he would take, whether he would turn toward the warmth of connection or retreat back into that oppressive darkness. The figure behind Jason grew more imposing, his voice echoing through the night like a siren's call. You're making a mistake. The desperation in the brother's plea set my instincts ablaze. Taking a breath, I stepped forward, my heart pounding. Wait! I called, wanting to intercept the moment before it spiraled out of control. What if he wants to do this on his own terms? Jason's eyes flicked to me, surprise mingling with gratitude, and I could see him weighing my words against the fierce pull of familial loyalty. Do you really think you can just walk away? His brother challenged. You think you can leave us behind, leave all of your responsibilities behind? The weight of the brothers' accusations hung like a shield, and in that space, Jason's resolve seemed to waver. I could feel it wipe off any remaining connection we had forged in the night. The vulnerability shifted back into a shell defense mechanism against the multitude of judgments thrusting upon him. As the air turned colder, I tried to bridge the chasm widening between us. "No one can erase where they come from," I said carefully, my heart aching for both of them. "But we can choose who we want to become." "Shut up!" Jason spat, his frustration boiling over. My heart constricted as those words cut deep, realizing that the connection we had just begun to nurture was now teetering on the edge of collapse. He wrestled with the real and the ideal, his brother's pressure crushing his resolve, while my attempt to lift him faced resistance. With a final exhale, Jason turned back, the guarded look shrouding him. "This isn't over," he whispered angrily, more to himself than to anyone. I reached for him, desperate to tether him back from the edge, but he shifted away again before I could lay fingertips on the warmth of his skin. The clash of shadows depicted an encroaching darkness, cocooning us in a web of secrets, tensions, and regrets. As I watched Jason's eyes harden, and the weight of what was said slid into silence, it became evident that tonight was only the beginning. I stood alone, fear creeping into the edges of my heart as the realization emerged. I had hoped to save a part of him, but the greater question loomed larger now. Would he save himself, or would the ghosts of his past take him away from me forever? The night still whispered secrets and warnings, and as I tried to hold on to the tiniest thread of hope, another revelation pierced through the silence. His brother was not alone. There were others with him, shadows flanking the moment, slipping further into our lives as their intentions felt like an impending storm, one I could not yet fathom. The chill of the night air wrapped around me as I stood frozen, braced against the escalating tension. Jason's brother remained a towering figure, but now I sensed the presence of others lingering just behind him, three indistinct shapes casting ominous shadows as they approached. My instinct kicked in, the primitive fight-or-flight reflex tearing through the haze of uncertainty, urging me to shield Jason from whatever consequences loomed on the horizon. "Who are they?" I whispered to Jason, but my voice felt lost in the swell of uncertainty hanging around us like an uninvited guest. The sharp stab of fear pricked my gut as I tried to catch a glimpse of their faces, but they remained obscured, every feature veiled in the darkness that felt all too familiar. "They're associates of my family," Jason murmured, dread tightening his features. "They'll do whatever it takes to control the narrative." "They always have." A knot of anxiety twisted in my chest as I watched the shadows draw closer, the air thickening with an unspoken threat. The imminent danger felt palpable, stripping away the protective veil of the night we had shared, leaving only raw emotion behind, raw and exposed. "Please, just talk to them," I pleaded, my heart pounding against my ribcage. "Don't let them drag you back into whatever they're planning." But Jason's gaze drifted beyond me, caught in a warring pull between familial loyalty and the burgeoning sense of autonomy he'd only begun to taste. "You don't know my family, what they've done," he replied, the tremor in his voice unraveling beneath the weight of the truth he couldn't bear to share. A figure emerged from the darkness, stepping into the streetlight's glow, a woman with sharp features and piercing eyes, the kind that assessed and calculated before she dared to feel. Her presence was magnetic, yet I felt the cold that ensued, a chill that hinted at the predatory nature hidden beneath her polished exterior. "Jason," she cooed, a veneer of sweetness draping over her words like silk, but the steel in her eyes betrayed her. "It's time to stop running. You know you can't escape from your obligations." "Not now." "Obligations?" The incredulity in Jason's voice ignited sparks of defiance, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the fire that had smoldered within him since we first met. "I'm not a puppet for your family's games. I left for a reason. You didn't leave, you disappeared," she countered, her voice soft yet laced with menace, as if she were savoring the impact of her words. "Do you think they'll just forget about you? That we will allow you to walk away unscathed?" Tension stretched as I sensed Jason reel at her words, the stark reminder of the shadows that had chased him all this time creeping back into his consciousness. "You don't understand, this is my life," he exclaimed, each syllable woven with desperation, as if it were his final stand against the gale of expectations. The darkness around us whispered, tightening its grip, as the woman's lips curled into a smile. There was no kindness here, only a calculated move in a game predicated on power and obligation. "As long as you carry their name, Jason, you're an heir to their legacy. Your past is your present." I stepped forward, a surge of protectiveness reviving my faltering spirit. "No one can control him like that," I declared, my voice rising. "You may think you can manipulate him, but he deserves a chance to find his own way. It doesn't have to be this way." All eyes turned to me, and the woman's expression shifted, a mix of cunning amusement layered over her irritation. "And who is this?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. "Another distraction? You think it's that simple? Jason's world is not one of rainbows and butterflies. We're talking about human lives." I lashed back, the urgency of the moment propelling me forward. "He has the right to choose just like everyone else. You can't keep holding him hostage to your expectations." Each word felt like a visceral strike against all they believed in, a fight for the man I had come to care for deeply. Jason's conflicted gaze swung between us, the uncertainty drawn tight across his brow. "You don't understand the stakes," he murmured, caught between my plea for sense and his family's relentless grip. I could see the longing in his eyes to break free from the chains that the weight of his past loomed like an unyielding storm cloud above him. Just as his brother stepped forward, frustration blazing in his eyes, I felt the ground beneath me shift. "Anyone who walks away from our family pays a price, Jason," he warned, voice dripping with veiled aggression. "And it won't just be you who suffers." Panic clawed at my throat, the urgency of the unpredictable danger escalating. I had wanted to pull Jason back, to help him find his way, but now the uncertain reality lay before us like an open wound, revealing the specter of conflict as his family continued to gather their forces. "Jason," I shouted, the desperation lacing my every word. "You have to make this choice. You're not just what they say, you're so much more than that." A gravitational shift caught his attention, but as he stood on the precipice of decision, another figure stepped out from the shadows, a man with a familiar stance, one I recognized all too well. My breath caught, heart racing in fearful anticipation, as I realized it was someone I never expected to see, a man from my past who had once walked the same path as Jason, tied to a world I thought I had escaped. My heart sank as the realization swept over me. His meeting was no accident. It was a carefully orchestrated play, a trap for Jason that might cost him everything he had fought for. Could my small moments of hope shine through the impending darkness, or have I unwittingly brought a storm upon us? As the unmistakable silhouette of the man from my past solidified before me, a wave of mixed emotions surged through me: fear, anger, and an echo of nostalgia. His presence was both a comfort and a threat, a stark reminder of the world I had left behind, and the secrets I thought were buried. The air seemed to crackle with tension as he stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine, and for a moment, it felt like everything else melted away. "Daniel," I breathed, the name slipping from my lips like a forgotten prayer. The memories flooded back uninvited, the laughter, the unspoken promises, the way his smile had once ignited a spark of hope within me, before everything had gone wrong. "What are you doing here?" His gaze shifted to Jason, eyebrows raised in a mix of curiosity and caution. "You picked quite the company, haven't you?" he remarked, a hint of mockery dancing in his tone, but beneath it, I sensed a genuine concern for me, a fragment of our old friendship shining through the chaos. Jason's breath caught in his throat. Confusion etched across his features as he regarded me, then glanced back at Daniel. "You know each other?" he asked, his voice a strained thread in the ever-tightening noose of tension. Not anymore, I replied tersely, unwilling to divulge the depth of our shared past, especially not in this precarious moment. Daniel, this isn't about us. You need to leave. You have no idea what you're getting involved in. But Daniel held his ground, his presence unwavering amidst the ever-growing storm. I can't just walk away when I see someone in trouble, he said, his voice firm and resolute. Trouble? The woman interjected, amusement returning to her expression. You've chosen to step into a world far darker than you ever understood, haven't you, boy? The mention of darkness sent a shiver through me, and I couldn't ignore the growing dread of what was at stake. Please, we're not here to fight, I urged, feeling the weight of eyes on us, my heart hammering like thunder in my chest. Jason's not a pawn. He deserves to choose his own path. Daniel, however, seemed to sense the gravity of the situation shifting, and his expression softened. What are they threatening you with, Jason? He asked gently, trying to connect with my companion while shielding myself from the storm of tension brewing around us. Jason hesitated, his gaze dropping to the pavement. There's nothing more to say, he mumbled, anguish creating fissures in his resolve. You don't understand what's at stake for my family, what they're capable of. I thought I could escape, but his voice trailed off, echoing the fears that had long tethered him to a destiny he had never desired. Don't give in to them, I coaxed, locking eyes with him, pleading for him to see the truth from within the facade. You are not their instrument. You can break free. Just then, a sudden movement broke our seething static, a sharp intake of breath, a shimmer of recognition in Daniel's eyes. Jason, wait, he said urgently, his words intersecting with the chaos. If they're who I think they are, this isn't just about your family. There's something bigger at play here. You need to trust us. Trust. The word hung in the air, heavy with potential. Would Jason dare to defy the family that had shaped him, or would he remain shackled by loyalty, caught between two worlds? My heart raced, every heartbeat whispering for him to step forward, to take that leap of faith with me. But before he could respond, the woman smiled coldly, her expression turning from amusement to furious resolve. Trust? Do you really think that this will end well? There's a price to pay for every choice, and for lurking in shadows, it could cost you dearly. She stepped forward, a predator circling its prey, her voice now an ice-cold warning. You've made a grave mistake, Daniel. Stand down while you still can. As the shadows pressed in around us, the three figures moved to flank Jason, a passive threat, deliberate and poised. The weight of their presence suffocated the space, drowning the flickers of hope we had ignited moments before. But in spite of the encroaching darkness, a spark manifested. Daniel's hand brushed against mine, offering an unexpected comfort amid the escalating tension. I felt a warmth radiate between USA's silent promise of resilience against the looming storm. And yet, anxiety coiled tighter in my chest, knowing what might happen next. Then, out of nowhere, there was a sharp crack, a gunshot splitting the night like lightning striking the earth. The sound shattered the precarious atmosphere, and chaos erupted as everyone instinctively scattered. I turned toward Jason just as his expression shifted, an unexpected, raw fear igniting his features as the realization sank in. Run! I screamed, my heart racing with adrenaline, not knowing whether the threat had come from his family or an outside force. All I knew was that the fragility of our lives hinged upon a decision he had to make, a leap of faith into the unknown. But as we sprinted away from the chaos, pulling Daniel along by the hand, an insistent dread pierced the air. I couldn't shake the feeling that dark clouds were gathering, drawn together by our desperation. What new dangers awaited us in the shadows? Would Jason's decision lead to freedom, or would it imprison him deeper into the family's grip? As the night enveloped us in darkness, I couldn't help but look back, fear clawing at my insides. I was left with an ominous question: if we managed to escape, what price would we pay for turning our backs against the storm? Would Jason's past ultimately become the trap we couldn't escape from? As we dashed through the maze of streets, The adrenaline coursing through my veins was tinged with frantic desperation. Each footfall echoed in my mind, a reminder that danger loomed just behind us. I risked a glance back, the shadows churning, but I saw nothing, only the remnants of what had just transpired, the lingering essence of fear that clung to the night like an unwelcome shroud. "Where are we going?" Daniel shouted, but I didn't have the luxury of time to formulate a response. I couldn't think. My mind raced, darting between survival and the gasping breaths of Jason beside me, who still wore the mask of shock on his face. His entire world had just shifted beneath him, and I could only hope he was prepared for the fall. "We have to find shelter," I managed to breathe, the words slipping past my lips almost unconsciously. The phrase rang hollow even as I said it. Would shelter truly protect us from what was hunting us? Visions of the woman's cold smile and the icy threat of her words haunted me. His was not just a simple game of dog and cat. We had stumbled into a world treacherous and layered with convoluted politics that I couldn't begin to comprehend. Jason's family loomed like a sword hanging by a thread, sharp and brutal. But who would we trust? The thoughts swirled chaotically, and for the first time, I felt the weight of reality crushing down on me like the heft of a stone. Despite Daniel's presence, despite the spark of hope he had ignited, I knew we were treading precipices I couldn't control. "Over here." I motioned to a side alley, hidden from the main street. It might offer a moment's reprieve, a chance among the chaos. We huddled together, breaths shared in the darkness, where shadows tangled with light. My hand still clung to Daniel's, a false tether to something that felt so fragile. The warmth radiated, yet my heart tightened with the fear of losing it all. "What are we going to do?" Jason muttered, eyes wide with confusion, guilt, and looming regret. His voice was edged with tension, the sound of a soul caught between shackles and freedom. "We keep moving," I said, trying to summon confidence. "We can't stop. They'll come for us." Daniel shifted slightly, urgency lining his features. "But we need a plan," he insisted. "They can't know we're together." What could we concoct as a plan when the lifelines of both past and future were fraying so swiftly? With every heartbeat, uncertainty tightened its grip around us, and for a moment, the weight of despair threatened to crush the flickering hope left within me. Suddenly, a distant sound reached us outs, and the unmistakable thud of footsteps approaching. Panic washed over Jason's face, and I stepped closer, positioning myself to shield him instinctively. "Keep quiet," I whispered fiercely, my voice barely escaping through clenched teeth. We stilled in the shadows, caught in a web of anticipation, our breaths synchronized in a desperate chorus. Unable to see their faces, yet I could almost feel their malice creeping like smoke on the breeze. Who else had they sent to track Jason down? Their hounds, relentless and far more sonorous. All very much aware that he was the key to some greater scheme I couldn't yet fathom. As the shadows drew closer along the alley, an unexpected voice broke through the sound of heavy footsteps. "Over here." It was low and commanding. The figure was tall and cloaked in darkness, yet even from a distance, the sense of authority was palpable. A protector? A hunter? In that moment, the figure halted, catching an ephemeral glimpse of disbelief, recognition blooming in the air like a freshly sprouted flower amid the rubble. "Is it really you?" the voice called, filled with disbelief laced with underlying urgency. The familiar tone pricked at my memory, as my heart raced. A jumble of emotions swelled at the edge of my consciousness. My eyes strained to assess the form of bygone companion I never imagined would surface in this twisted reality. "Leo?" I asked hesitantly, my voice trembling alongside the incline of hope that threatened to sprout. "I thought you were lost," Leo exclaimed, stepping closer into the hesitant glow of the distant streetlight, though his eyes darted over us, assessing the threat with instinctual precision. "I came to find you. Please, tell me you have a plan," I implored, clinging to that sliver of desperation, hoping he had removed the veil of ambiguity that had cloaked our circumstances in terror. He nodded fractionally, urgency shifting his posture. "We need to get you out of here," he stated concisely. "There's safe passage, but we need to move now." I exchanged a glance with Daniel and Jason, the three of us grasping for reassurance. It materialized in the unlikeliest of forms, a lifeline born from the past, intertwined with hope and uncertainties yet to unravel. But as Leo led us back to the street, the air became thick with foreboding. With every step taken, I felt Jason's restlessness, an unspoken dread pulsing beneath our collective breaths. Could we trust this last-minute savior? The past told tales of betrayal and deception, yet here we were at the cusp of salvation. Then, chaos erupted. A sudden crackle of noise shattered the momentum, message delivered, unwanted and urgency rising. I turned swiftly. A sense of impending doom loomed higher than the rooftops surrounding us. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, like a cacophony of predators encircling their prey, reminding us how close we were to being ensnared in a trap from which there would be no return. "Run!" Leo bellowed, pushing us forward, but as we sprinted, I felt the ground tremble, not just beneath our feet, but beneath the weight of our intertwined fates. The shadows behind us surged, hunting for our escape, and behind me, I sensed Jason falter, the confusion tearing at him like a frayed rope. "Wait!" he cried, desperation lacing his voice. But as I rushed ahead, every heartbeat echoed with dread. Would his choice be the one that tethered us all back to the darkness? I could barely breathe as we raced into the night, knowing we were on the edge of an uncertain dawn fraught with unseen dangers. Reality twisted and turned, leaving us time-worn warriors against an enigmatic world. And as the specter of our decision loomed, a chilling thought punctured the tension. What if our flight was merely the beginning of an even darker descent? The streets blurred, the shadows twisting and contorting like creatures from nightmares as we fled. Daniel's reassuring grip tightened around my hand, while Jason, torn between the familiar and the unknown, lagged behind, the weight of his uncertainty threatening to consume him. I could hear the distant echo of sirens, each wail a reminder that safety was an illusion. Rapidly dissolving in the chaos we were running through. We turned the corner, following Leo's lead into another cramped alleyway. The skyline loomed above us, jagged and oppressive, like a harsh reminder of the world we inhabited. It felt unreal. Each moment, I expected to wake from this cacophony of terror. But I was wide awake, suffocating under the weight of the choices we had made and the shadows chasing us. "Leo, where are we going?" Daniel gasped, his breath ragged but his voice steady. There was a raw strength in him that I clung to, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness that swirled around us. "To a safe house. It's the only place we can regroup," Leo shot back, glancing over his shoulder, his eyes filled with urgency. "But we need to be quick. He can't guarantee how long it'll remain safe." Jason's face twisted in disbelief, emotions clashing like storms within him. "I can't," he stammered. It was clear he was grappling with the gravity of our situation, and for a budding moment, I felt the tremors of his fear shake through me as well. "I can't do this. What if they catch us?" I halted, turning to face him. "Listen, Jason. I know you're scared. I am too. But there's a way out, and we'll find it together," I whispered, reaching out to him. My fingers grazed the backs of his trembling ones, seeking connection amidst the chaos. He hesitated, but eventually I saw him nod, though the uncertainty never fully left his gaze. Just then, the ground itself seemed to shudder beneath our feet, like an earthquake signaling the oncoming storm. My heart raced in tandem with the pounding of our feet, echoing a rhythm of survival, survival, survival. I noticed Leo's eyes flicker with something, a mixture of dread and determination. What had he seen that we had yet to grasp? We pressed forward, but a sight caught my eye that pulled me back momentarily. There, in the flickering light of a far-off street lamp, I spotted a small girl, no older than 8, huddled alone against a building, her face streaked with grime. Her eyes shone with tears, reflecting the night like small pools of despair. Something within me pulled at the very core of my being. How could anyone leave a child here? Leo! Wait! I shouted, breaking from the group. Daniel shot me a surprised glance, while Jason hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his features. Are you crazy? Leo snapped, glancing back. I can't just leave her. I interrupted, urgency cutting through my fear. I felt like a moth drawn into the flame, but the child was far more vulnerable than myself. In this twisted reality, was I truly prepared to ignore innocent suffering? I sprinted toward her, my heart in my throat. Hey, I said softly, crouching to her level. What's your name? She flinched but then gathered herself enough to answer, Lila. Her voice was barely a whisper, but the weight behind it carried stories I could only imagine, the untold horrors of a night like this. Lila, sweetie, are you hurt? I asked gently, scanning the dim light for any signs of injury, but she shook her head, her small body trembling in fear. Please, you shouldn't be here, she cried, glancing back, as if she could sense the danger lurking behind us. They'll come for you too. I felt a chill run down my spine. I know. But you don't have to be alone. We're here, I promised, extending my hand toward her. Do you want to come with us? We have a safe place. Her tear-filled eyes searched mine, wavering as uncertainty danced in her expression. And then, as if that glint of hope was enough to break through her fear, she reached out and took my hand, small and fragile against my palm. I want to go, she stated bravely, and I felt a surge of warmth surge through me, but time was not on our side. I turned, ready to urge the others to hurry, but as I looked back, my heart dropped. Leo's gaze was intent, fixated down the alley, and in that split second, I knew an ominous figure loomed at the end, malevolent and poised. The darkness gathered, the shadows stretching longer and wider. Run! Leo shouted, his voice like a battle cry, and I felt Lila's small hand squeeze mine tighter, her fear palpable. I turned, instinct guiding my steps as we took off together, the sanctuary that respite provided slipping further from our grasp. But the footsteps behind us escalated relentless, echoing the urgency of our impending fate. Just as we neared the mouth of the alley, I turned to ensure Jason and Daniel were with us. But Jason had vanished, swallowed by the darkness. My breath caught in my throat. Jason! I yelled, fear slicing through me like a knife. The desperation clawed at my insides, but I had no choice. Safety came first. Standing at the edge of the alley, a choice thrust upon me like a guillotine, the path diverging before us, yet the weight of his absence clanged like an incessant bell in my heart. Leo's grip on my arm urged me forward, while the shadows behind threatened to reach out and pull us back into the abyss. And just as we broke free into the street, something colder than the night wrapped itself around me, a feeling of betrayal lurking in the periphery. Would we find Jason again? Or was this mere prelude to an even darker nightmare that awaited as we fled into the night? The uncertainty wrapped around me like a noose, tightening with every heartbeat, and as I looked into Lila's wide eyes filled with bewilderment, I wondered how far would I go to save them all? How many more shadows lay waiting, ready to snatch away everything I cherished? And in that moment, I realized I had to confront more than just the darkness outside. I had to face the shadows lurking within us all. The darkness wrapped around us like a shroud as we sprinted through the streets, Lila's hand clasped tightly in mine. Each step pulsed with urgency, but the hollow absence of Jason loomed large in my heart, a stone weighing me down. Where's Jason? Lila's small voice broke through the fear that enveloped me. I glanced back, gauging the distance we had put between ourselves and the danger, but the shadows held many secrets, not just behind us, but within ourselves. Leo! I called over my shoulder, urgency blooming in the air thick with tension. We can't keep leaving him behind. We need to find him. He's smart, Leo shot back, his brow furrowed as he led us down another alley. Hell, find a way to regroup. Right now, we need to keep moving. But every word felt like a crack in my resolve, a wave crashing against the dwindling embers of hope. Don't abandon him, I urged, desperation clawing at my throat. What if he's hurt? What if I couldn't finish my thought, choking on the fear swelling inside me? Lila squeezed my hand, the warmth of her tiny fingers grounding me against the onslaught of dread. Is he your friend? She whispered, eyes wide. Friend? The weight of that word ignited something within me, a flicker of purpose amidst the chaos. He means a lot more than that, I replied softly, kneeling to Lila's height. We are going to find him, I promise. But we have to be safe first. Can you be brave for me? She nodded, her gaze steadying amid her uncertainty. Leaning in, I pressed my forehead against hers momentarily, finding strength in her small but resilient spirit. But just as I felt that moment of connection, a voice boomed behind us, cutting through the tension like glass shattering. Stop right there! A voice barked, the menace coiling around us like a serpent ready to strike. My heart raced as I turned to see figures emerging through the reflections of the streetlight, an inevitable convergence of threat now bearing down on us. Panic spurred my legs into motion, and I yanked Lila forward. We need to go. Now! Leo led the charge, darting through another side street. My heart thundered as fear chased us, whispering that we might not evade what hunted us this time. Just as we rounded a corner, freedom seemed tantalizingly close, when suddenly an enormous shadow blocked the path, tall and imposing, shrouded in darkness. Time froze as movement halted, the air thickening. The figure before us towered, and all I could think was that we had come too far to lose ground now. You think you can run forever? The man sneered, and my pulse quickened. A flicker of recognition ignited something within me. I breathed. The man stepped forward, revealing connections I wished I could have forgotten, me heart pulsing at the realization of who he was, a lingering remnant of my past. Lila shivered beside me, and I realized I was holding her breath with mine. Get away from her! Leo shouted, positioning himself protectively in front of us. Another one trying to play hero? The shadow taunted, his smile curling like smoke. How naive! Leave her alone! I shouted back, instinctually stepping forward, fury igniting inside of me, knowing in that moment I wasn't just protecting Lila, I was fighting for Jason, and for everything that mattered. But laughter erupted, a sound like breaking glass. What do you think you'll accomplish? You don't stand a chance against what's coming. This is bigger than all of you. Bravery surged through my veins, fueled by all of the choices I had made so far. I don't have to stand against you. We just have to get away. At that moment, the ground quaked as footsteps thundered behind us. Jason. My heart soared. Come on! I screamed, my voice releasing a torrent of adrenaline. This way, run! Jason's voice commanded, sharp as a blade, yet the fear threaded through his tone reverberated like an echo. There he was, emerging from shadows, an author reclaiming his narrative strong despite that familiar flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, vulnerability hanging like a heavy cloak around him. We darted past the figure, Jason grabbing Lila's other hand, the connection something tangible. Something healing. Just like that, we were a team again, pieces falling into place. Suddenly, more figures began pouring from every corner, threats rushing toward us from all directions. I felt hopelessness claw at me as we raced toward an uncertain future, but there was a fire in Jason's eyes, and I realized we were not alone. Keep moving! He shouted again. As we continued, navigating the tumult of the streets, adrenaline coursed through my veins. When we reached a narrow alley, Leo pulled us toward a rusted door at the back of an old warehouse, urgency painting every move. In here, he urged, quickly unlocking the worn door and slipping us inside. I pushed Lila in first, followed by Jason and Leo, locking the door behind us with a thud that resonated in my chest. The darkness swallowed us whole, but the cacophony outside faded to a muffled roar. A strangled silence hung heavy. We were alive. For now, Jason's breath hitched beside me as he turned, his eyes searching mine, a maelstrom of emotion swirling. For a moment, it felt like it was just him and me again amidst countless unsaid apologies, burdens shared, and sacrifice underlying everything. He stepped closer, our body heat melting within the coldness of our hidden refuge. "I didn't know if I'd see you again," he admitted, every word imbued with the gravity of the moment. "I didn't want you to get hurt because of me." My heart sank, the vulnerability of his admission igniting the air between us. "I'll always choose to fight for you, Jason," I replied, words escaping with resolute clarity. "And deep down, I think you know that. I am scared," he whispered, the haunting rawness in his words sending tremors through me. "My family, what if they find us?" "We're not letting them take you back," I vowed, tilting my head so I could meet his penetrating gaze. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. That's how we survive." Lila's hand squeezed mine, a sign of her trust, a pulse of innocence encasing the room like a protective cocoon. Unexpectedly, a whisper of laughter emerged, cutting through the tension. "They won't find us, right?" she asked, the spark of hope illuminating her innocence. "No," Jason answered solemnly, kneeling to her level. "They won't find us." But as we stood together, in that half-light of uncertainty, a distant sound wrapped around us, a flicker of familiarity, the rolling thunder of footsteps drawing nearer. Though we had found a temporary shelter, I could feel the weight of our momentary sanctuary fracturing beneath the imminent danger. Something compelled me, a whisper, to action, and I turned to Jason. "Promise me something. Anything," he murmured, desperation tightening his features. "Whatever happens, we don't lose hope," I declared, locking my eyes with his, anchoring my emotions in the gravity of the moment, ready to weather any storm alongside him. "We're going to fight for our lives. Together." But just as those words were propped in the air, the pounding grew louder, and I could hear their voices now, shouts that rang with authority, laced with menace. "Search every corner." They couldn't have gone far. Time slipped through our fingers as we huddled closer, bodies bracing against the oncoming tide. I could see the resolve strengthening in Jason's gaze, even as shadows loomed around us, the past fused with the present, unyielding and inescapable. "What do we do?" Lila whispered, though her voice was now steady, bolstered by Jason's calm presence. "We fight," Jason declared, raising his chin defiantly, a spark igniting in his chest. The door slammed against the wall as it burst open, the silhouette of their shadows looming large, flickering across the walls before us. But I no longer felt afraid, the weight of their intrusion, of our uncertain fates, fading into something else entirely, a type of resolve reaching toward a new dawn. We may have stood together on the brink of fragility, yet at that moment, a sense of unity surged through us like a heady flame igniting our spirits. "Together," I whispered once more, determined to face whatever storm awaited us. And as we prepared to challenge the unknown, I couldn't help but believe that in the end, the light would always shine, if only just enough to guide us home. The walls quaked under the intensity of our breath, and I was ready. We would fight for our freedom, for our lives, and for the very essence of who we chanced to become. In that instant of shared uncertainty, there was a promise that in the tumult, we would surge forward together, carving our escape into the shadows of fate, bound by courage, amidst a world that sought to divide us. Together, we would rewrite our story, an ambiguous future, but a narrative nonetheless, fighting for every chapter we deserved to claim. Because in the end, hope had a name, and it was ours.